What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? My name is Frito, here to give you an analytical breakdown of Phil Fish's angry tweets about the gaming industry. Once again, if you don't know, Phil Fish is the Fez developer, an indie platforming game, but probably more famous for the controversial statements he makes on Twitter about the gaming industry. This time, he's at it again, talking about YouTubers making money off of game content. Here's his tweets. YouTubers should have to pay out a huge portion of their ad revenue to developers from which they steal their content. Well, Philly boy, I actually want to sympathize with this guy. He's a developer. If you watched his story from the movie Indie Game the movie rather, then you kind of know how hard working and passionate he is about games, and I believe he has a right to this opinion and this passion, but what he fails to realize is the nature of what he's saying and how incorrect he is. I think he does have a point, though, and we'll get to that in a second. He has a basis of an argument, but mostly it comes down to the fact that legislation hasn't hashed out the murky waters in between totally ripping off game content and making legitimate derivative content off of it. So this is where he goes wrong, because he makes this assumption. He posts this tweet: if you buy a movie, are you then allowed to stream the entirety of it publicly for people to watch for free? No, because that's illegal. Correct. It is not okay to just post a movie. That is true. However, video games are not fully direct intellectual property like a book or a movie. There aren't individual experiences for each user, or should I say generalized experiences. Games have individual experiences for each user where it changes depending on how the game's structured. If the game is more open world in nature and, let's say, I don't know, Goat Simulator, some bullshit game like that where the game does almost nothing and just gives you toys to play with, you go play. Or if it's more of a story-based game, like, I don't know, I always bring this up, BioShock Infinite, very story-based. There's other games that have almost no gameplay whatsoever and are essentially push forward to continue, and you just watch a story. Those are obviously more weighted on intellectual property. The problem is we haven't had any legitimate ways to navigate through both of these mediums, or both of these poles, I should say, because there hasn't been legislation to divvy it up. I think Phil Fish has a point. If you aren't commentating it and you're just posting full Let's Play footage of a game, I don't think that's legit. I don't think it's kosher to just show gameplay and not add anything else. I think, and especially a full game, if you're from start to finish, that, in my opinion, should be illegal. Because you're not adding much value. The amount of value you're adding is just your gameplay experience, which I don't think is enough to warrant you owning that. Now, if you are adding commentating ability and, I don't know, PewDiePie reactions, let's say, or something, that is a talent that you own. That's something you're adding onto the game, and it has to have some value and some weight to it. You can't say me adding those elements to it, the unique commentary I'm giving to this video, for instance, you can't say you all of a sudden own that separate from the fact that you own the game. I go so far as to make the argument that multiplayer game footage, as opposed to the single player where the intellectual property, especially in story-based games, are heavily owned by the developer, I think multiplayer games are on the other side of that fence, where in a multiplayer game setting, you're using the functions of the game and the shell of it more of a playground or a ball rather than it being a book or a movie. You're playing inside this world which they own, but most of those experiences are your own. I think you own that. So where do we come from this? I think really we need more education on video game media and for people to understand. A lot of people make these arguments on YouTube like, oh, you shouldn't get paid, you just post gameplay to YouTube, it's so easy. But you don't understand all the other things that goes into it. Nobody really watches people just for gameplay for the most part, especially not Call of Duty. I mean, PewDiePie, do they watch him for how good he is at a certain game? No, they watch YouTubers for the things they have to say, the entertainment value they bring for the most part. There is people who I would consider game leeches who post up full Let's Plays of games without adding anything to them, I don't think that's legit. But it's not the same thing as just posting up a movie verbatim. Here's a little thought experiment that I want us to go on. If you go down to an elementary school and you hide in the bushes and film the children playing basketball, now you probably are going to get arrested, you little pedophile fuck, but stay with me. If you film children playing basketball at a court, right? Does the NBA own that footage of you watching them? It sounds disgusting when I say it. Of you watching them playing basketball? No, they don't. They don't own every instance of basketball, right? The school might have a problem with it because it's on their grounds. Okay, let's move that. What if the kids were playing in your own backyard? Okay, that's different. Another example. The NFL on ESPN. Does anybody say that the commentators don't add value to the things that they say about football, about whatever? They do. They get a paycheck as well. It's not like, oh, all they do is talk. That's nothing. No, it's a separate medium. Covering the subject is a whole nother thing. It is derivative. It is derivative. We can't lie. We can't say that, you know, we know which pulls the horse here. We can't put the cart before the horse or the dog wagging the tail or some shit. I don't know. You know what analogy I'm trying to say. We know which one goes first, but you can't say that there's an overwhelming fucking dictatorship at the top where the developers own everything. We have to work this out as a community and over time, and as this obviously builds, it'll have to get worked out because lawsuits are going to happen. Phil Fish is going to get angry about some Let's Player playing his game, and especially if he only plays one level, it's going to give more promotion for the game than steal from it, which I think it's got to be noticed. Anyways, I'll catch you guys on the next video. My name is Frito. I don't do outro.